right, so if you're like me and you missed chunks of the AmmCon, let's replay chunks of the AmmCon again so that we see it. And here we go. We got Clover doing his chunk here. Pretty decent, however, they did chop off most of his images as he was doing the presentation. We're going to start with his, then we'll look at, or maybe we won't start with his because it's taken forever there. So why don't we start with this one?
So many different people. In this particular word, he chose the word joint. He said to a cook, it conjures images of cutting chicken quarters apart.
Oops.
To others, it by the more audiences, it's important to realize that what a word means to you or a phrase could mean something completely different to someone else. And so the two awesome people coming up now are going to talk about how do we avoid verbal language amplifying. And they are, of course, the elect and devoted Latinos. You guys come on up. Johanna, Rosalie, and Rolando de la Vega. They're a husband and wife Second Amendment and rights advocacy team. From the outset, the goal of Locked and Loaded Latinos has been to expand the firearms and freedom movements from within the Latin community through education, enlightenment, and exposure. Each week, they discuss topics from the 2A advocacy, current events, cultural issues, and bilingual discussions on our rights and the founding documents. And that is a space that I can't fill. I can barely speak English, so much less going through a podcast with two languages. I'm going to get you your microphone, and then I am going to let you to run with it for 1 minute.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Cheryl. Like she said, I am Ron. I'm known as Puerto Rican Pistolero on social media. This is my wife, Johanna. She's Latina Locked and Loaded, and together with the Locked and Loaded Latinos, and we'll go briefly through our origin story. We actually did not get the Second Amendment advocacy until about 2 years ago. It was that on November 7th at the 2019 rally that we really became advocates for.
I can barely hear it myself, so I'm going to play it on the other machine really loud and try to get them to lip sync. It should be easy, right? So, since they're all labeled Second Amendment Foundation live stream, it's super easy to figure out which one it's supposed to be. Thanks for that.
Eating, please continue eating, but we are moving ahead with our program. We've got a couple of great organizations.
2019 Queer Rally really became advocates.
Wow, that's as loud as I can get it.
I came from a military family. I was a Navy brat. But, my parents never owned firearms or anything like that. We didn't own firearms.
That's not even all that much louder, so I guess I have to play it over here.
So I just really grew up with that culture. What the important institutions, the Second Amendment, and pretty much what the catalyst was, I was like, what I would see those things, kind of take our rights for granted, especially when the safety for the Second Amendment. Never really feel how important it is for citizens. It was actually on February 14th, 2018, that really changed things. South Florida. So for those that aren't familiar with what happened on that day, that was the day that massacre was.
Damn, I can barely hear it. Oh, come on. Are you kidding me? Are they telling him in the chat here? Oh, come on. Yeah, I can't even. There's no audio at all. There's nothing. This is what I'm hearing also. This is maxed out. This was 3 hours ago or something. So this is not live anymore. Oh, come on. Seriously? There was nobody in the chat telling them? Seriously? I'm guessing the audio was fine in the room. They don't put earphones on. Garbage. Come on. Yeah, the whole thing. All right, well, that sucks. So now we'll go to Tony's, who is right here.
What was the first part of your question again? I'm sorry. The gatekeepers. You know, we haven't had too much trouble with gatekeepers because we have been blessed from the start that we came in.
Talking to you privately, interviewing you on shows. Thank you so much.
So Tony was right before, right?
All right, our speaker is Tony Simon.
The whole time Cheryl's echo was like that?
The second name is Eric, and then is Tony Woodley.
Role models in this, I guess, or
Oh my gosh.
him and Paul are two of the people that made me realize that advocacy is something I could.
At least we can hear Tony, so it's going to be crazy, but at least we can hear Tony.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tony Simon, and I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Oh, he stole that from Ken.
That's a line from Ken Blanchard. He was one of my early role models in this, I guess, or him and Paul are two of the people that made me realize that advocacy is something I could do. So I want to tell you guys about how I started 2A4E and what my motivation was. And if you want to be involved in it, what I learned and maybe how that can help you. I'm sorry if I'm pausing because I'm getting feedback. So let's go ahead. I know a lot of you out there, a lot of you guys are friends of mine. So, but some people don't know who I am. My name is Tony. I was born in rural Virginia on a farm. I grew up with firearms, hunting culture. That's just what it was. Firearms were not taboo. And I joined the Marine Corps, as the kids today say, in the late 20th century. That's disturbing. And I served my time there. I was one of those kids that were always into firearms. Not in a freaky way, but in the kind of way that some people are in sports cars or sports and they know all the statistics. I knew about firearms. I knew every gun that you saw on the TV. I knew the history behind it. I would read all the books. Every book you could find, I would read. So that was me. I especially like surplus firearms. So immediately upon getting out of the military, I purchased some surplus firearms. I purchased in 1911 because, boomer. But that's what I did. And then I moved to New Jersey and I realized my rights were restricted when I ran into all the laws that applied to a New Jersey resident trying to own a firearm illegally. That didn't bother me because I already owned my firearm. And I didn't get politically involved. I really didn't until 2012. In 2012, my friend Sean Fisher and I from Black Bag Resources, I took a class from Sean when he became an NRA instructor, and I enjoyed it immensely. I enjoyed the feeling I got when he taught me how to shoot again after I got out of the Marine Corps, because it's a perishable skill, and I was horrible my first range trip. And with one class in basic rifleman, I shot a quarter-size group at 25 yards with a 10-22. I love the feeling, and I wanted to give other people that feeling. So I became a firearms instructor. Sean and I went and got all of it: precision rifle, pistol, shotgun, range safety officer, and I was about to proceed to be the greatest firearms instructor the world had ever seen. And then Sandy Hook happened. And that's when New Jersey legislators lied. And they had 76 bills proposed that were anti-gun. Everything from increasing the price of getting a permit to increasing the price to get a permit, to more restrictions upon getting a firearm, magazine limitations, just everything you can think of. And that's when I wrote my first letter. That's when I got involved in advocacy. And that's when I started noticing things. And I'll just go through it because I remembered the different things I noticed and the things I'd love to tell someone else that wanted to start their own advocacy. Real quick, I just want to go over 2012. I wrote my first letter. I got involved in advocacy. I spoke in front of the assembly. I was a nervous wreck. You can see my video somewhere on YouTube because I don't remember a word I said. That's how nervous I was. Fast forward to 2015, after my last time standing in front of the assembly, there were over 200 pro-gun people. None were black, not one. And by that time, I taught several classes. I'd been to several classes. I knew black people shot guns. I knew Hispanic people shot guns. I knew Asian people fired guns. None of them were present to testimony. I felt that was important. I contacted the groups I'd worked with over the preceding 3 years, and I said, hey, do we have anything set up to get people of color involved in the political side of advocating for their rights? And everyone said no. And I was talking to my friend Sean about it, and he was like, well, why don't you start something? And I was nervous at first, but I eventually did. At Gun for Hire Range in 2015, February 2015, I started the Second is for Everyone Diversity Shoot. That's what I've been doing ever since. During 2020, I thought we were going to be totally shut, and what ended up happening is, yes, New Jersey had all kinds of restrictions and wouldn't even open gun ranges for 6-8 months after restrictions. But other ranges did. So I was able to host events in Pennsylvania. We had a brand new range open up in New Jersey that somehow missed out on their closures. So I was able to actually go there. It got to the point that I was doing so many diversity shoots in 2020 that I was actually exhausted. 2021 came around, we did even more. We had more ranges. And even my friend John Anderson invited me out with the Nebraska Firearms Owners Association, and we did a diversity shoot in Omaha. So that's what happened with what we're doing since 2015 on something one guy said, I think something needs to be done, and I did it with the help of a lot of other people. So, first thing I want to tell anybody who wants to get involved in advocacy or even want to do what I did, know your motivation. Know why you're doing this. If you're doing this to make money, yeah, no, just no. But you're going to have to know why you're doing this, and they're going to have to be deeper than that. You're really going to have a passion for this. If not, you're going to burn yourself out early. Number two, start locally. People see what I'm doing. They see me on podcasts, and they're like, how can I go and do what you do? Well, I'm doing it with friends, lots of friends. And I got to know them because I started working with my local 2A groups, ENJFO in New Jersey, ANJRPC in New Jersey. I work with NRAILA because I've done the work, because I've gone and volunteered at events. People knew I was serious about helping. Because I testified, people knew where I stood. So that really helps. It really helps to build alliances and allegiances with people. And when I talk about the Second Amendment and our diverse issues, that's all I talk about is the Second Amendment. Nothing else. I don't care about your religion. I don't care about your sexual orientation or your gender. I care that you're a human being. I want to introduce you to firearms and the firearms community and the human right of self-defense. Other than that, I love you as a human being, and I want you to be able to protect the ones you care with the most effective and efficient tool there is to do so. All right, one of the other things I also did was create an online image. People know me from online. They know me from podcasts. They know me from my social media. Well, when you're online, understand, you control that image. You what people will see. Your reactions and everything else is controlled by you. Don't get involved in petty squabbles or even big squabbles with petty people. You're not going to look like the bigger person to an outside observer who's just checking in, because we all know people have very short span and they're not going to check back to what started this whole fight. So I really believe, be the person online that you want people to see. So part of that is know what you're talking about. Know your facts. When you speak on something, make sure what you're talking about is correct. And if you make a mistake, admit to a mistake. But know the difference between fact and opinion. There's a difference between what is a fact and what is your opinion. And the more you learn, if you're open, your opinion may change. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just build diversity. I hate the way the word diversity has been changed to mean some silly political thing. I mean diversity, not in how people look, what they are, but what they think, how they think, and perceptions. People are going to think different. You can't open the Second Amendment community up to only people that believe in. That's ridiculous.
Volume keeps getting lower. I don't know what's
We need to
happening.
have people from across the spectrum, because the only way we can fight something that's turned into a political fight is to get people from the other side to join us in this fight. To realize that they're going to have to all politicians that try to limit or restrict rights. We're going to have to do this together. And we can't do it if you're only for people that look and think like you. It's just that simple. Also, you're going to have to become friends, associates, or perhaps with a lot of other people that may not have the same priorities as you, but you have to get on the same page. And that's what I suggest you do, is make friends with the awesome human beings in that audience right there. The speakers, they're friends of mine, for real. I'm really bummed out that I can't be there today, but I have 3 more weekends left to move out of this home, and I have friends downstairs packing right now, so that's why I can't be there. I got told something by a veteran of the Second Amendment. He said, don't allow this to take away from your family and run relationships. You have to be careful and allot your time. My wife has been wonderful as I've been doing Second Amendment advocacy. She knows what I'm doing and she stands behind me, even though most of you have never seen her. Yes, she does exist. Most of you have never seen her. But she's one of the reasons, the main reason I can do this and go places and be the advocate for them is because I have her behind me. You just have to make sure you do a really good job and don't ruin a relationship or go broke during this battle. And that's the last thing. You will need funds. I've seen multiple arguments online about people, why do you ask for money? Why do you need money? Because the food I serve at my events is not free. The ammo we use at the events isn't free. The ability to travel to do these events costs money. There's a difference between trying to pay expenses and trying to become a multi-millionaire off of the back of 2A advocacy. You're going to need money. You're going to need money to set up websites. You're going to need money to buy equipment for podcasts. You're going to need money for just a lot of different things. There's nothing evil about that. You use it every day. Just make sure you use it to fight. That's about it, I think, for all the things I learned. I don't know if you guys are going to have questions. I can't hear anything from the audience. So if anyone has any questions, let me know, and I can also talk more about what we do and why we do it. Yes, I can.
Ugh. So Tony can hear something.
This patch is something myself and John Crump came up with, and it's for what you can purchase one at blackswantactical.com. A portion of the funds, of course, goes to our fight. This started off at NRA 2016. I was exhausted, walking around the floor the whole time. I came back, and my wife was like, hey, you know the bathtub of something? I was like, okay. So I squirted some bubble bath in there, and I jumped in, and after the second rum and coke, I thought it was a good idea to take a photo of me and post it on IG. I said, what's the worst that could happen? So 2019 comes, Christmas, and a friend said, hey, can I make a picture into a patch, a sticker, and give it to our daughter on one of her presents, because she loves you. I said, sure, and that's what I did. Well, you had to make 25. So my friend said, what are we going to do with 24 patches of you in a bubble bath? I took them to SHOT Show and I gave them to everyone I knew. Aaron Paulette from Operation Blazing Swords and Pink Pistol called me up and said, hey, Tony, I'd love to use that sticker to make t-shirts. And we can split the funds between our organizations. I said, sure, no problem, but who the heck wants to buy a t-shirt of me in a bubble bath? A whole lot of you guys did that. Thank you. So that has funded both our organizations since December 2019. And last month, Crumpy and Toxic Patch Company came up with this. and we're splitting the funds too. So because of one incident, NRA, money has been coming in the Second Amendment advocacy organizations.
NRA doesn't do anything.
Right, thank you. I was taking Charlie Cook's advice.
All right. Well, we're not hearing the other side of that audio, but it ends pretty soon here. So, Second Amendment Foundation.
I started giving testimony because I was angry.
I think the question was, why did you start?
I was tired of people putting words in my mouth. I was tired of my race being hijacked by a political party and my rights being, at least, actually being taken away by that political party. So that is why I started testifying. I haven't testified in a while because those people made me feel dirty. I figured my advocacy would better serve bringing people in and advocate the Second Amendment. I will testify again, but I do not like it in anywhere. Thank you.
All right, so that was Tony's. You could hear him at least. Are you kidding me?
These are even some tips that you can use whether you're doing a Facebook Live.
The other thing, made a bunch of two-way advocates to make a clown car, but it was pretty terrific until we almost got pulled over. But that's another story for them. Okay, without further ado.
To find out, I like camera number one, and I can go to camera number three. Number three and I don't see eye to eye. Even though we live in the time of the Jetsons, we want to try to make sure that when we communicate on video, we don't look like things. My name is Charlie Cook, so I'd like to present a few things that you can do to maybe enhance your video presentations or your video interviews. These are even some tips that you can use whether you're doing a Facebook Live video, or whether you're doing an Instagram video, or an Instagram Live video, possibly even a TikTok. Possibly. Although I will say, when I watch TikTok, I think after I'm done watching it, I'm a little less smart than I was before I started watching it. For the last year and a half, since we've had the virus that shall not be, a lot of us are communicating on video these days, whether they're video meetings or video interviews, whether we're the interviewer or the interviewee. And the generic term that we kind of give them is Zoom. Zoom has been a platform that we use.
Zoom?
Again, we use it generically as video interviews. It's kind of like calling it tissue by Kleenex. 8, 10 years ago, a video interview was just a Skype. Skype was also an online platform where you could communicate on video or audio. But now we all call them Zooms.
Nobody calls them Zooms, but okay, whatever. And calling them Skypes is the same thing as calling them a Zoom,
right
dude.
now, I've got 3 ring lights that are on me. I have one from the front and one from either side. What we're going to do is we have these set on the warm setting.
It's just me and you, Smeggy. I don't think anybody's watching this.
So the lights aren't
Did you watch any of this live?
We're going to change them. And even with this light setting, you can see the light has changed on me. With most of the ring lights, there are 3 different settings. Here's the 3rd setting. You can see that the light texture changes a little bit, my complexion changes. I'm sure the background is changing as well. The way that I like to do these is on the warm setting, so it's a little bit bright and a little bit warm and not so bad. I like to keep them like this. Now, even though I have 3
Did it get wonky the whole day? Sorry, it was shitty. I couldn't hear anybody. I didn't realize I was telling them to turn it into chaos the rest of the day.
Now we're going to turn off the light in the middle, and you can see that the light changes a little bit on me as well.
This is what Sarah tried to do last year, except this is way more efficient and illustrates as they're talking along, as he's going along. It's ironic that he's talking about lighting and he's on the most distracting background ever that has the Holy Bible and the Playboy book on the same shelf right behind his head, and they're only 2 things he can even read just about. But at least he's dropping info. He did this sort of thing last year where he was telling them how to use their phones to edit video.
If we turn on some of the recessed lighting, it looks like this. And you can see that it probably isn't too bad, but maybe a little too
I think he just goes on and on about lighting for a long time, so I'm not going to watch that.
And if I put my phone on the coffee mug, I get the slip and fall, which would be bad. Or I can get this where I miss all of my face. So I'm going to scoot back here, and this looks a little bit better. One thing you want to be careful of is the infamous up the nose shot. My 2 biggest fears of public speaking. So when the light's coming on from underneath your laptop, when I do the flights last year for podcast where I keep who might be falling asleep when they're doing something. Another thing you want to watch out for are chairs that swivel. So I'm in a swivel chair. We're going to spin around. Woo!
Well, this dude just has money laying around over here.
It's not that difficult. Or if it is difficult, get yourself a regular folding chair. One of the things that can be difficult, especially if you're on a Zoom meeting or a Zoom interview, and you're looking at the screen and you can see the other person, because let's face it, it's easier to talk to someone when you can see them. And not that it's easier because you have to be a camera, but there's a better connection when you're talking to someone and you can see them. So if you are doing an interview and you are on Zoom, doing a video interview, it's hard to not look at the person on the screen. When you are looking at the person on the screen, you're not looking at the camera. One of the things that's hard to do is to look at the lens when you want to be looking at the screen. I mean, let's face it, when we talk to people, we like to look at them and see their reaction. And I've certainly been on the Polite Society podcast a number of times, and you want to see other people that you're interacting with, but sometimes it's a little strange. And I try to make a conscious effort to really look into the camera, especially when I'm talking. If I'm listening to someone else, then I'll look at them on the screen, but when I'm talking, I try to make sure that I'm looking into the lens. If you do have pets, and pets can be like cats and dogs, or possibly even children, you do want to try to make sure that it's just you. And I'm not trying to say you can't have other people in your video, but you don't want it to be distracting to have some sort of a cat crawling.
That's bullshit advice. That is bullshit advice.
And there are some people that do that, and that's fine, but try to be careful, particularly if you're the interview.
If you're the kind of person that gets upset because you see a dog in a video, I don't want to even interact with that person. What kind of horrible person gets upset because they see a dog or a cat? Come on, Charlie.
One of the things that I really appreciate is the camaraderie and the family that we have.
He did all right. He was educational with it. It was pretty boring, but it was better than some of these.
I know that I'm doing a video presentation, and I'm here, and I'm running around working and doing some interviews. If you'd like to see more of the videos that I do, you can find Writing Shotgun with Charlie on YouTube, Doug Streamer, on the Obsolines app, on Full 30.
And he told people where he's at, which nobody else has bothered to do. Tony knows how to do may be effective at AmmCon, which is supposed to be a workshop, right? The audio issue is there's no excuse for that. It's messed up beyond. It's insane. So I didn't listen to any of this. So.
And talk to us about what it is that's so persistent in this idea of coming out and how did that go with you?
Yeah, that's horrible. All right, so that was the part 2 one, I think. And then we can go to, is this going to work?
Fantastic. So we've been learning a bunch of stuff. We do a lot of work. Why don't we find out how maybe we can make a little bit of money at what we do? Well, our next speaker is Chris Dover. He is a semi-retired entrepreneur. He is Chris Clover or Clover Tech. He's a YouTuber, a podcaster, a writer, a social media influencer, and more through various projects with Clover Tech Productions, a Texas-based pro firearms media company. Since 2017, he has used his tech knowledge and education along with his network of tech industry contacts in order to help other creators, specifically YouTubers, to
it's just
navigate
dry.
the online
That's I guess
world
I should say.
of website, platforms, and social media. Clever. I give you Chris Dover.
So they chopped the shit out of his slides, which had to be super distracting. So they basically zoomed in on the center of all of his slides, and they cropped out all the outside slides for him.
Thank you, Ms. Cheryl. Hello, AmmCon.
AmmCo. Nice.
It does. So my name's Chris, and background, as Ms. Cheryl said, in the IT world, Strange Bedfellows, also youth shooting sports instructor. So, with that, most of you that know me from the Clover Tech YouTube channel, with GunTuber stuff. I have enjoyed helping other creators for the last several years. And so I kind of spun off a project to get it off of that GunTuber channel called GunTuber Academy. Apologies for the screen there. But anyway, check that out. If you got questions as we move forward, also do podcasts. Also do writing for career-report.com. I think you'd have to ask Charlie about this, but I think I'm the shortest episode ever of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Not sure. So, we're talking money. And when we talk money, we're going to talk the bonds. We've heard about all of that, and that's Bloomberg's money, right? Behind all of that. I've heard it said that, what if we had somebody like Bloomberg? Well, there's a novel idea. We got thousands and thousands of people that attend rallies. What if we got all of them to get behind Charlie or Big Tony, or Chris up there, or anybody else? What if there was a way to do that? You know what? There is. It's called Patreon. So here's your crash course for Patreon. Remember, as we burn through this, I'm going to cover a lot of ground. Maybe up after the thing here, if you're watching this online, of course, this up on GunTuber Academy. Email me. Get with me on social media. We'll try to get you taken care of. So the first question is, what is Patreon? If you ask 100 people, 99 are going to tell you it's all about the money. It's fan funding, it's money, and you know what? They're not wrong. That bottom number is $1 billion a month. Changes hands on Patreon. $1 billion, I'll say it again, dollars a month. But here's the thing. There's 200,000 creators on Patreon, and there's 6 billion users currently. So what if I told you Patreon is a platform? So as we move forward, don't forget the funding aspect. That's important for our projects and our channels and other things. But don't forget Patreon is a platform. So I'm going to answer a few questions here that I'm going to get or cover a couple of topics. The first is, I went past it, when should I start Patreon? The answer to that is yesterday. And there's several reasons why. First of all, it's easy. Get on the internet. We all do that. Type in some stuff, you get a couple of buttons, and guess what? You set up a Patreon account. It's easy. Plus, you got help, like me, or just about anybody else in this room that already has a patron like Charlie. The other thing is, whether you got one follower or whatever, or 10, somebody out there just wants you to take their money. They're wanting to support you. If you don't have a mechanism in play to do that, what are they going to do? Who are they going to give it to? And third, the quicker you get started, just like anything else, the more practice you're going to get before you get those hundreds or hopefully thousands or hundreds of thousands of supporters out there. The next question that I get, or topic rather, is I'm nervous about promoting my Patreon. We all suffer from it. We feel like we're e-begging, right? We feel like we're asking people for money. Let it go. Let it go. Patreon has been around since 2013. Talked about it before. There's 6 million users on the platform. $1 million a month changes hands. If people don't know Patreon is a thing by now, and they're not okay with it for us to fund our channels and our projects, you know what? That's on them. I put out a public poll. 89% said that they do not have a problem with somebody that promotes their Patreon. 89%. And that's a public poll. Now, there is 11% up there, and you know what? Haters are going to hate. It's going to happen. The people that hate you, probably not going to support you anyway. So who cares? The thing is, some of those 11% did leave some feedback on that poll. And they said the way that you promote sort of affects their feelings on that subject. So let's talk real quick about a few ways that you can promote passively without causing yourself too much trouble. Now, it's hard to see on this, but at the bottom.
I told him when he made this thing that this shotgun was too long for this presentation, but he insisted on putting the shotgun in this presentation.
Left-hand corner of the screen, you would see a watermark that said patreon.com/corporate. Use watermarks on your videos, your images.
I feel like nobody needs a shotgun that's that long. If you need a shotgun that's that long to kill a deer,
drop that in social media banners, several different places. Comments there. But when you drop a link in a comment,
did you notice that that shotgun was so long that it had to have an extra clip just to keep the barrels from wobbling around?
Without causing yourself too much trouble. Now, it's hard to see on this, but at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you would see a watermark that said patreon.com/corporate. Use watermarks on your videos, your images. Drop that in social media banners, several different places. Comments there. But when you drop a link in a comment, be it YouTube, be it Instagram, or description, be it YouTube, be it Instagram, just spice it up. Don't just drop the link there. Let people know what that link is. Let people know what they can expect. And one of the most important things, when we talk about, well, I'm asking people for money, you know, the thing is, I probably should be supporting other people. Probably should be practicing what I preach. I know it's a big personal thing for me. I don't want to be hypocritical. If I'm putting out there that, hey, I'd like you to come on board as a patron over on Patreon, you know what? I'm going to support some other people. And I do that for 25 different people a month. I throw a buck their way just to help out. Not only does that help with my coping with that hypocrisy, but it also helps strengthen the community and broaden the base. Now, Patreon is like a first date. You got to make a good first impression, right? With anything. That's going to be your homepage on Patreon. So let's talk about that real quick. Like I said, easy to set up. You're going to go over there. You're going to click around. You get the option to set this page up. It's important that you add quite a few things because when the public hits that page, before they support you, when they're a patron, they're going to view it publicly. You want to make sure your mission statement's there and it's clear. The what and the why. You got the option to put up a trailer video. You got an option to put up pictures on your projects, your social media links so they can follow you in other places. And if you do content, podcasting, whatever it might be, on a regular basis, put that schedule up there, front and center in public. And then even if they don't become a patron, maybe they'll follow somewhere else. Maybe they eventually see you doing something that sways them to become a patron, and they remember. You're there. So I said patron offers the public option to come in. And then once they come in, if they like what you do, they can kind of become a member. They can support you. Patreon calls that membership tiers. Membership tiers, be mindful when you set those up and who your supporters are likely going to be, who your followers are likely going to be. It's going to run the gamut. It's going to be mostly blue collar, mostly white collar. It's going to be companies or corporations potentially.
that you're going to promote to and push to maybe support you. Be mindful of that and set the monetary level of those tiers up in a way where it's conducive to that particular audience. On average, content creator, gun tuber, what are you going to call it, makes about $4 a patron on Patreon. Some of you folks out there with the nonprofits and stuff like that, $10, maybe even more. Depending on your project, depending on what worth people find in that project. Your project, the sky's the limit. Now, they take their cut. Unfortunately, everybody's going to. I love YouTube, not knocking on YouTube. Love the platform, but good, great. They'll take 30%. Whether that's ad revenue, whether that's super chats, whether that's a membership, whether that's whatever. Patreon, they only take 10. Talked earlier about the different levels. Here are some of my levels. Mine run essentially from $1 all the way up to $100 a month, again, to take care of those corporate levels. When you set these levels up on your Patreon, or your Patreon, I should say, see mine, got the Lucky Charms looking thing, the leprechaun. They're all in kind of a shooting sports theme. They're named that way. Make sure your project, your organization, make sure that your levels kind of, they look pretty and they resonate with those people. You got people that go into sharpshooter level just because it says sharpshooter. Did another poll, speaking of those levels, and 77% said that they support people on Patreon expecting nothing in return. They do it simply to support that project, that creator, that organization. Now that leaves 23%. And let's face it, if you've got 1,000 or 10,000 patrons and you lose 23%, that's going to be significant, right? So, what can you do to offer perks for that 23%? To maybe entice them, maybe help keep them on board. There's several things you can do. You can do swag. Swag is an obvious thing. Stickers are easy and cheap. Patches, not so much. Dog tags, challenge coins, caps, not so much. All that stuff has to be shipped. It has to be managed. But you can do special live streams. You can put credits to your patrons in your videos. All of that's free, and all that is engaging with your support, with your audience over on Patreon. So let's talk about that engagement. There's several ways you can engage with your audience on Patreon, several different types of posts. Now keep in mind, any and all of the posts that we're talking about here, you can post straight out to the public, you can post to just your patrons, or you can post to a specific tier. Let's say you have that corporate tier. If you just want to post some behind the scenes or something special you're doing, but maybe the donations from that specific tier. Everything is tailored and geared. You have complete control on who sees those posts, no matter what it is, text, image, video, live stream, audio link, or a poll. But I want to hit on a couple, like videos. If you do video content, Patreon, one of the greatest perks you can do, it costs you nothing. You cut your video, you uploaded it, you're going to release it next week, Lord willing, you're on a decent schedule like that. Drop it early over on Patreon. Drop it for them early. Not a big deal. If you've got Instagram pics, you can do the same thing. If you're on Instagram, drop those pics early over to Patreon. Now we talked about polls. We went through 2 so far. This is a Patreon poll. These are absolutely amazing and vital. And here's the reason. I call my patrons my executive committee, my board of directors, my shareholders. That's what I call them. When I put a poll out, I'm not putting it out to the general public like those 2 before. It's going out to people that support me. It's to people that have given me their hard-earned dollars every month. So you know what? I'm going to get some valuable data and feedback. No matter what question I ask them, I'm going to get it. And I can trust that it's genuine feedback. Now, speaking of that data and feedback, another thing about Patreon that it offers is the third grader in me wants to laugh, but it has a robust back end. This is what they call the relationship manager. So with this, and yes, all of the emails I've blurred out, that way I didn't give that personal information away. But with the relationship manager, I'm able to see all of my current patrons. I'm able to see all of my past patrons. I'm able to see ones that are swapped levels, all kinds of data in this relationship manager. Now, another cool thing about this relationship manager, if you've got the slightest bit of editing experience, you can export any of the data in this to an Excel file, and then you can import that into your editor in a roll credits scene. So it helps with that too. One of the things under patron management is exit surveys. If you've got somebody that leaves you, they have the option of filling out a survey. This could be interesting. Now, over the last couple of years with what has gone on, most of it is my financial situation has changed. And I would venture to guess that the majority of lost patrons you have is going to be the same. Finally is the analytic data, the hard data with numbers. How many people viewed a post, how many people commented, how many people reacted, how many patrons you gained, how many you lost, how many upgraded their support, so forth and so on. So finally, we'll talk about a frustrating thing, which is policy. I know every platform has their policies. There's a lot of gripes going around about this and that, whether they have the right to do it. Read Patreon policy. If you have understanding it or want my opinion on it, I'm here. But definitely read the policy of the platforms that you're operating on. Two areas that I want to talk about real quick. Patreon does not like giveaways. They define a giveaway as giving something away in a random fashion. Right? I'm going to pick a random comment. I'm going to pick a name out of a hat. That sort of thing. That's contest, not as giveaways. So just be mindful of that. Second thing, just because of the space we're in, is links. Links to firearm-related stuff, specifically when we're talking things that are regulated from a state and federal level. So potentially magazines, obviously on a state level, firearms and ammunition, federal level. You post that, doesn't matter if it's a link to the manufacturer or a link to an affiliate. That's a problem area on Patreon. So, what did we learn? Well, we learned it's easy. We learned you can engage with your supporters. Why? Because it's a platform. We learned you can fund your projects. Now, if you've got questions moving forward, anybody live here, pick up a business card. It has my number, and call me, baby. Right? So with that, if we've got questions, I'll try to answer some questions now. But I will say this: a lot of Patreon, it really deals the way you're going to set it up, the way you're going to work it. It all hinges on what your organization is, what your project is. So general questions are okay, but if you get specific, then it might require one-on-one consult. Common complaint is they're communist, but they're communist. The question there was there a common complaint about Patreon? I get this with all platforms online, that they're communist, right? Because they don't allow you, as I talked about, to post links to firearms, or they don't allow you to run what in many areas with the giveaways is considered a gambling operation or potentially organized crime that crosses that line, right? So because there's a risk factor involved for them and they don't allow it, you hear that a lot. I can't think of any negatives. I'm sure there probably are a few negatives. I'm just not aware of it. Obviously, hate speech type stuff. That stuff like the comments that they mentioned with the LGBT community, possibly, or bullying or something like that. Yeah, you're responsible for, because that's your channel, right? That's folks that follow you, that's folks that support you. Well, you're going to be responsible for curating that. Now, if you, don't get me wrong, there's going to be an ample delay to get rid of stuff. It's self-correct, right? So Patreon is not going to come after you, and they're not going to go, oh, well, you've messed up. We see this is wrong. You're gone, right? There's going to be recourse. There's going to be time for you to correct that. So if you've got, let's say, somebody that comes in and somebody that donates, and then they post some, let's say, anti-Semitic garbage or whatever it might be, right? you're going to have the opportunity to remove that, right? If Patreon doesn't remove that for you first, which likely can happen. Oh, we still got 5 minutes. Just take it.
You better repeat that question because we're not hearing nothing.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Great question. Wonderful. I did not cover that, but when we were looking at the relationship manager, that's where you would do it. In that section. Right. Usually they give you like a week. Like I see up to a week, sometimes 3 days. You know, it kind of depends on what it is. But a lot of times they're going to get rid of that themselves, right? So it's going to depend on. Again, I said you can post. People can post publicly if you allow, right? So if you put a post and it's just your patrons, those are just the people that support you, right? So you have a little more responsibility since those are the people supporting you, right? A better class of company, I guess. So with that, you're going to be a little more responsible. If it's just a public post, right? You throw something out there to everybody, odds are Patreon's going to delete that and take care of it themselves without ever even bothering. But on the other 3 days to a week.
Wow.
That was allowed.
Where's it going? Some blog posts are on approval only, meaning you can comment all you want, but I have to approve it before it appears. Is
Correct.
that option available on Patreon?
No. Only that would be, you would want to set that up as a patron only, right? A supporter only. In that instance, you would make sure it wasn't public. Yes. Yes. It's 3 like.
Can you repeat that?
Oh, sorry. Ms. Nick asked where did Patreon have a strike system. The answer to that is yes. It is like most platforms. 3 strike, you're out rule. Yeah, they do rescind. It's typically a 90-day, like in between the infractions.
Just to be clear for the people online, what the question was that you were answering.
That was, what's their time frame?
Frame for the strike.
Was what you have.
Okay, one more question up
One
here.
more?
We're going 2 minutes.
Don't cause me to go over now. Come on. Go ahead.
We'll see. All right. So, given the nature of the topics that we talked about in the Second Amendment, can you go into a little bit more detail of what might get you booted off, or get you strikes if linking to gun related content or fire?
So the only hang up Patreon has as far as a policy, as far as I've seen. Here, let me back up. Okay. Some of the gun tubers out there that claim that Patreon is communistic, blah blah blah, are posting affiliate links that they're making money off that lead to gun dealers. Classic Firearms, for example, is one of them, right? So they're trying to send their patrons. They're advertising those affiliate links, which they make money on, to their patrons, which ultimately is leading that patron to purchase a firearm online, and that particular avenue of the firearm online, not accessories like scopes and things like that, right? The firearm itself is the issue. That's where, like I said, regulated items is where Patreon has their hang up, right? So that's the number one thing. As far as you sharing Second Amendment stuff, as long as you stay away from anything that could be considered bullying or hate speech. There was a big channel that got in trouble not long ago, and I can't even think I might could look it up and we could have a private conversation on it because it wasn't in the firearm 2A arena. But he got into some trouble on the platform, and it really borderlined the bullying and the harassment policy on Patreon was what he violated. So. As long as you're just putting up your videos, talking about freedom, talking about the Second Amendment, and you're linking those, right? You're not putting those on Patreon. You're basically linking your content from other social media. Probably should have explained that better, a little better earlier, right? So if it's okay for those platforms, typically it's going to be okay for Patreon, if that more closely answers your question. Is that it?
That's it. Thank you so much.
Poorly answered that question.
Christopher. I said it right. Check that out. All right, and we are coming into the home stretch, but finishing very, very strong. Coming up next, we have Jared Marple.
All right, so then that was most of the ones I was going to listen to, I think, that I missed. So I don't know if anybody's seen anything else that was good. They're conveniently all named Second Amendment Foundation live stream, so you can go find them on their website or on their YouTube channel. I'll link to it here. If you go to their channel tab, you're going to conveniently find every single one of them named Second Amendment Foundation live stream. And luckily they're in order, so you can sort them. So this should be the first one. And that's probably where I started watching, is when Craig was, I guess he was live. She's sleeping and running in her sleep, sitting on this like pad thing that I got her. It's like them like outdoor furniture things you lay on. I got the pad off of somebody who was throwing it away, so I put that on the floor. She sleeps on that. So it's kind of like a mattress, I guess. But it's got that all-weather fabric on it, so you can. It's kind of loud when she's moving on it. So anyway, she's been running around in her sleep a lot. I don't know what that means. Let's see. So the first one was media, I guess. The second one was Ashley Hablinski. And what else was happening? He's not going to let me. Oh, it was Crump doing the FOIA thing. So somebody was saying about Crump. He did a good. It was good. It was just dry. It was just a bunch of slides, but the info was good. And he actually dropped a couple of insightful bombs there. I'm not sure if anybody will take it. Then you had Rob doing his weird disco robot thing, and Ashley doing her weird like assault weapons. I don't know. I think she was trying to. I don't know what she was trying to do there. The second one was What's His Face, and then Charlie. We listened to that one. And then it was Ashley and Chris. And everybody says the audio is really bad on that. And then there's Tony. We listened to that one. And then here's the thing. We tried to listen to Locked and Loaded, and this is what Locked and Loaded is. This is as loud as I can make it go. So they horked them. They were totally horked. So then we get number 3. No, that was number 3. Then we get number 4. And I didn't see this one either. It started good audio, then it went crazy and cleared up, go back and forth. So then you got Rebecca talking, and then it was Clover. And then after Clover, dude who runs Full 30. And then that was it. And then they said come back tomorrow at 8 o'clock a.m., whatever time they're in. The only time zone that matters to them. But they don't tell you which one it is. They just tell you it's the only one that matters to them. So probably a metric time zone, some left region of the country. Let's see. So with that in mind, I think we're done here. So what does that mean? That means that it is 4:30, and at 5 o'clock, every Second Matter show is starting. So that's a conversation where we talk about Second Amendment on the second day of the month. We've done that since 2013, and usually the audio is better than anything we listened to just now. Yeah, exactly. That girl can never get any kind of volume. So with that, we'll say that's what you get. Second Amendment Foundation brings in $6 million a year, approximately. They take credit for a whole bunch of lawsuits, and they do send out a lot of paper in the mail, and they make awesome commercials like this one.
If Joe Biden can force a needle in your arm, he can take your gun. Joe Biden said it is not about freedom or personal choice.
This is not about freedom or personal choice. This is not about freedom or personal choice.
Joe Biden has already stated that gun violence is...
You just can't even watch the whole thing. So I don't know what to say. They're what we got. They're the one of the three, at this point, four, I guess, national level organizations, and they're the only one putting any effort into Second Amendment media. And this was the 5th year of it, 2nd year virtual, and it's tough, but we're going to keep watching it happen. So there you go. If you got any comments on it, you don't need to keep them to yourself. I encourage you to make a video, because talking about it on my video is going to might as well be saying it till your pillow. So they need to hear it. And if you've watched more than one of these, or if you've attempted to watch this one, you understand when I say they need to hear your feedback. They need to hear your feedback. They need to hear your feedback. They won't listen to my feedback. They need to hear your feedback, or we're going to get this next year as well. They're the only organization that's trying, right? And, well, they got tomorrow. You're right. I'm still going to say it again. They need to hear from people. They're not trying to do it this way, but they're getting away with doing it this way. And I don't know. We talk about it's irony. I'm not going to say and rag on them more, but then they're the only ones doing it. But come on, man. Right, we're done here. We're done here. 29 or 2 for 50. Come on down today. I don't know what that means. Oh, is that some sort of a thing? I don't know what that is. It distracted me. Yeah, I ruined this whole thing. I'm going to start over. I'm going to do this whole thing over again, and then we'll do every second minute. Here, I'll make Smeggy do the outro, since he's over there disrupting everything. You got to do the end work. Thank you for supporting our projects. If you'd like to buy us a cup of coffee, check out our Patreon channel.
The guys and gals at gunwebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thank you for watching gunwebsites.com. Do 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 do.